This video is presented by VoiceOver article. Under the accepted standards of borrowing student loans, it is stressed that you can borrow up to the cost of attendance, as determined by your school, less other financial assistance you might be receiving. Other financial assistance refers to grants, work-study, and scholarships. And, the cost of attendance typically involves tuition, books, fees, room and board, and other miscellaneous living expenses. Also, the cost of attendance as determined by your school has figures that are meant to apply to a wide group of students. Oftentimes, you may not need to borrow as much as your school allows. Note that it is best to borrow the minimum amount possible so that you can lessen your overall financial obligation later. If you prefer to consider borrowing student loans to finance your education, just expect that some of the lenders these days have borrowing limits placed on student loans. For instance, the federal government places annual and aggregate borrowing restrictions on federal student loans, and the aggregate limit is usually the total amount that every student can borrow in the span of his or her education. Given this fact, it is then necessary to examine and evaluate the terms of every loan you plan to take on for the annual and aggregate loan restrictions. Aside from that, carefully and honestly assess your current financial status, including any financial commitments you have made before entering the school of your own choice. Understanding the repayment obligations of every commitment you've made is the key here. Note that over time you will be responsible for these prior obligations in addition to any education debt you take on, and your education loans are not given to cover these prior obligations you have. Finally, consider the realistic determination of your future income. You can perform some research on the current job market and start salaries in the area you plan to pursue. Just note that you will be paying for your education with your future income. So, when choosing a student loan program, be sure to do some investigations on the loans that offer you alternative repayment plans which can assist you in managing your payments, especially early on in your own career. This video is presented by VoiceOver article.